Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and I've got a very vulnerable share here. I got to share with you. I just got to share it. My worst binge ever, and a few other binges to boot. So before I get into that, I just want to say that we're having a really cool thing happen very soon, coming right up, called the Make Peace with Food event. Make peace with food, love your body, love your food, love your life. Please join us for this. You can go to healyourhunger.com and find the link for this. It is a 3-day immersive retreat-like experience online on Zoom. Okay, no streaming any other places, no recordings accessible. This is an event which you got to be present for. This is where you start your transformation. If you've been struggling with food and weight, I'm going to show you a way out that's got nothing to do with diets, nothing to do with crazy exercise programs. Okay, so make peace with food. Love your body, love your food, love your life. Love to have you join us. You'll be glad you did. It'll be a small group, so you get a lot of attention, a lot of love. We're going to do breakouts on Zoom, so you can meet the other women who are on this same path of wanting to heal their relationship with food, because you don't have to struggle anymore. You don't have to fight food. You don't have to keep hating your body. It's time to love your body. But this is coming up soon, so go to healyourhunger.com, register now, and tell your girlfriends now. And if you can't attend, tell your girlfriends. Definitely share the love. Okay, thanks so much. On with the show. Hi, friends. Hello, hello. I am going to share something pretty vulnerable today with you. I had to sit and think about this before I share this information with you, but it came to me this weekend. I was at a really cool event, and I actually got a cold, so I might sound a little nasally. If you hear that, you're right. So, and hopefully I won't have a coughing fit while I'm sharing this, but it came to me that I wanted to share about my binge eating life, okay? Because I was a binge eater, and I say was, but I don't mean to indicate I'm cured, okay? I haven't had a binge in over 5 years, and I'm very grateful that, close to 6 years, but it's not like it was way back in the past, all right? Although I'm going to share about some different times in my life when I was a binger and some of the horrendous binges I've had. And I'll end with the worst binge I ever had. Okay. And why am I sharing this? Well, I think it's important. It's easy to look at me and be like, she doesn't know how I feel. She's never been where I've been. She doesn't struggle. She has it so easy. She's like, got it together. Well, guess what? That's not true. Okay. I'm very grateful for my life, and I'm grateful for the relationship with food I have today, because it is peaceful. I've never been as free as I'm free right now, but I'm not cured. So it could go to hell in a handbasket if I don't do the things that I teach my clients to do, if I don't follow the step-by-step Heal Your Hunger process. Okay. So I take it a day at a time. I love the day at a time philosophy. Comes from the Bible. 12-step programs coined it, AA, or Bill Wilson borrowed that from the Bible, called it a day at a time. It's just a cool philosophy. Why? Because it makes it more manageable. Let's keep it just in today. So for today, I'm free. I've never been so free. I'm super grateful for that. But once upon a time, I was a binge eater, and I'll take you back to the binges I had when I was growing up. So as a kid, and this is in hindsight, of course, I didn't know this at the time growing up, but I knew I liked food. Okay. That was clear. That was very obvious to me. I loved food. I loved to eat. I loved to cook. I loved to serve it to other people, play restaurant with my sisters. stand by my mother when, by her side when she was cooking. I wanted to get those little, those metal things. Of course, I'm not going to be thinking the name correctly, but the batter stirrer thing, that electronic batter stirrer thing. So that has those two tongs that you pull out of the batter, and they have batter on them. So I'd be standing there waiting for my mother to give me so I could lick the metal things. And it was very complicated getting all the batter off those metal tongs. But I did a good job. Don't get me wrong. Okay, so I didn't binge when I was just eating that. But on the weekends, I had this ritual, which I didn't intend to have, but in hindsight, I see that on a very frequent basis, I would puke involuntarily on Sunday nights. So I had this thing where I would get sick to my stomach. I had a weak stomach. And on Sunday nights, often, in hindsight, again, I see that I had this routine of getting sick to my stomach. And getting sick to my stomach was, it had some perks to it because I got time with my mother, alone time with my mother. And I think that wasn't easy to have. I was the youngest of three girls. My mom was kind of distracted and my parents were busy people. So what I know now is that being around my family on the weekends, which is when we were all together, we're all in the house, usually we're off doing our own things. And I was lonely as a kid because of that. But on the weekends, my family was more, in the house around me, and there was tension and there was stuff, buried stuff. I mean, we had a lot of skeletons, all of us did. And I see now in hindsight that I would get sick to my stomach because I would binge. I would eat way too much on the weekends. I'd eat pizza, I'd eat donuts, I'd eat ice cream, cookies, you name it. I ate a lot on the weekends, and popcorn with butter. That was a big problem for me. And my stomach was weak and I would throw it up on Sunday nights, but I would get time with my mother. So when I was sick to my stomach, I'd go to her room and I'd say, Mom, I'm getting sick. She'd come to the bathroom with me. She'd rub my back as I puked. And then she would get me ginger ale and put sugar in it, which I guess to kill the fizz or something. So that was a little extra treat, to settle my stomach. And I'm grateful for that. She was a good mom. She whatever, we can all find fault with our parents and some more than others, but I'd say I had it pretty good, because she was there for me when I needed her, and she was attentive and caring. And I'm very grateful for that. She's still alive and I just adore her. But nevertheless, I see that my binges back when I was a kid came from family stress and family secrets. Okay. We were all hurting. We were hurting puppies. And we were all eating. Food was a big deal in my family. My sisters also had disordered eating. So they had their versions of it as well. One sister didn't gain weight. The other sister did. She was obese at one time. And we're all on our own healing journeys now, which I'm grateful for. But the point is, being in that family, being the youngest, being a sensitive kid, I absorbed a lot of that pain and I stuffed it with food. So that was where my binging started. Fast forward to adolescence. Okay. And adolescence, as I hit puberty, more binging. As I was in high school, I had the pressure of high school, of being super busy, trying to keep up academically, doing sports. I went to this school where we had to we were forced to do sports. It's not like you either chose to be artsy or you chose to do sports. You were artsy and you did sports. Okay. So and we went to school on Saturdays too. I mean, it was pretty rigorous. And we had games, sports games on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And then I did the the ridiculously stupid decision. I made a decision to play goalie in two sports. So field hockey and lacrosse. That was a problem because that added all this extra stress and tension and fear for me. So my binges were often on Wednesdays and Saturdays on game day because I was goalie and I was terrified. I didn't even consider myself a jock. I honestly decided to be goalie because then I wouldn't have to run as much. Okay. So I got myself in that pickle. I wasn't bad at it though. I was good at catching, but I literally was trying to avoid the exercise by hanging out in the goal, thinking, this will be cushy over here. Not so. I had all these balls whipped at me. I had bruises all over my body. I was terrified the whole time. So my eating, and then at school, they served at lunchtime, they served extra carbohydrates on game day to fuel us at our sports games. So tater tots, macaroni and cheese, French fries, other kinds of pasta. That's what was being served. And boy, did I love that. Hot dogs. I loved it. So I would stuff myself with carbs, tater tots and ketchup and macaroni and cheese. And I would waddle out to the field, stuffed to the gills. And of course, that didn't help my game, right? It was harder to move and catch balls. But I did it because I was terrified. And again, this is looking back. I wasn't conscious of it, but I would binge on these carbs because I was trying to settle myself down. I was trying to not be so afraid of the pressure of being in that goal and having the ball coming down the field and me being the last opportunity to save the day. Okay. And that was a lot of pressure and I couldn't handle it. And so I stuffed my fear with food. Do you relate to that? Do you relate to having something that you're afraid to do? And then you overeat to quell the fear. Okay. To calm myself down. So if you've eaten over anxious things that you're doing, things that cause you anxiety, please put that in the comments. Yeah. Don't leave me out here alone. Please let me know if you relate to anything I'm sharing. I would so appreciate it. Okay. So that's another. And not to mention, okay, that's on game days, but I binged in high school. I had so much insecurity, so much self-doubt, so much self-hatred. And so that was a problem for me. And I ate. I mean, I had late night binges also during high school on account of, I'd come home from school and I would eat. I'd come home late because it was a boarding school. And so, but I was a day student. So I'd come home and I'd eat at 10 o'clock at night, ice cream and cereal and whatnot. So I frequently binged. Fast forward to when I was taking time off from college. College, yeah, same. More binging, but I took time off from school and I moved to Seattle. And I was moving to Seattle to try to find myself. Okay. So I was trying to find myself and that didn't work out so well. Initially, of course, everything works out in the end. But I went because I was lost. I was really lost. I had a lot of self-hatred. I took time off from school. I took a year off, ostensibly. It turned into longer than a year, but I went to Seattle. I worked at the Seattle Art Museum. And I was going to therapy and eating disorders therapist. I was trying to find myself. And what happened was that I was trying to lose weight and I was in a 12-step program and I was on this really strict food plan, super strict. Like if you eat one green bean too many, you're going to start your day count over. So anyway, that's what I was doing. And for a time it worked. I lost a bunch of weight. Over a period of about 8 months, I lost about 40 pounds. Problem is it was all about the food and I was doing the food plan, but I wasn't doing, the work of addressing and healing what drove me to eat in the first place. So the weight loss, I'm sure you can relate to this. If you've had weight loss, it's so fun at first, right? It's so awesome. It's like, woo, look at me. And then I could fit in all these different clothes because my body was shrinking and I could fit into cuter clothes. And so then I became a compulsive shopper and I basically was filling the empty void with clothes shopping. But eventually that didn't work either. Men, boys, I was trying to, I was trolling for a boyfriend at the Pike Place Market. And of course none of that filled that emptiness inside. The weight loss and the high of losing weight, it paled. Buying cute clothes, paled. Having a boyfriend, having people interested in me, paled. And I was left with myself. And after about 8 months of weight loss, I started to binge again. And it was terrifying. And I knew, I mean, this was a big turning point for me. And soon after that, I got help from my mentor because, I mean, I met my mentor and asked him to help me. But it was because I knew I was on that roller coaster ride of losing a bunch of weight and then gaining it back again. Oh, and I'd already done it several times. Do you relate to that? The roller coaster ride, the diet roller coaster ride? Yeah, I'd say most of us know that ride. Sadly, it's a hard one, right? So that was me. I was about to put those 40 pounds back on, and I knew it. And I remember it started with a bowl of grapes, just overeating on grapes, which wasn't on my food plan. But within a week, I was walking down the street to the donut shop and buying a dozen donuts. And that was a hard thing for me because I blew it. And I felt demoralized and I didn't know what to do. Thankfully, divine intervention. I met my mentor. I asked him to help me, and I didn't have to put those 40 pounds back on. And I lost more weight eventually, about 10 more pounds. But point is that binging cycle was super painful because I had just lost so much weight. Walking down to that donut shop, Winchell's donut shop, after driving by there and not overeating and not stopping for 8 months. I think I always kept in the back of my mind that it was there and wouldn't it be nice? Well, sure enough, I went there, and that was a painful, painful time of my binging. It was short, but it was to the point. I started to really pack on pounds, and that's what motivated me to find a different way to finally address and heal my emotional eating, because I could not diet anymore. So those are 3 different instances of binging for me. I think another time that I binged, I started to heal at that time. And I was on a healing journey from that point on, but it didn't mean I had never binged again. Okay. So fast forward, I'm pretty sure to the time when my father died of cancer. I think I was, 21 years ago, maybe I was 34 years old, and he died of cancer. Bless his heart. My beautiful, beautiful father, whom I loved dearly, but had issues with that I didn't resolve in time. Sadly, I now since have, but I loved him very deeply, and he loved me, and he died. And what happened, which I think precipitated the binging, is I got super thin. I came as close to being anorexic as I ever had. I was not an undereater. I was not a restrictor. Typically, I was a binger, right? I was an overeater. I was somebody very out of control with food, snacker, grazer. But when my dad was dying of cancer, I got acquainted with the anorexic mindset where it was such a powerless feeling to have my dad dying at age 64, healthy, vibrant, and he went within 2 years, he was gone. He had tumors popping up all over. And I wasn't resolved in my heart in my relationship with him, which made it even harder, I think. And his death, or his dying process, I couldn't control. Like I couldn't stop him from dying. I couldn't stop the cancer. And what I did is I started unconsciously undereating. Again, in hindsight, I realized, and I might have known this a little bit at the time, it was the only thing I could control. I felt so out of control and so scared about his dying. And undereating was something I can control, which is very typical for anorexics, right? They control when they feel out of control in other ways in their life, and even around food, they try to find something to control, which gives them a sense of control, a sense of power. And that was me. And so I got very thin And I remember my dad commenting on it, like, what's going on there? And I was in denial about it, but I see now that it was the only thing I felt like I had control over. So I kind of dipped into that anorexic mindset, and thank God I didn't stay there. Thank God I came out of that. But I came out of it when my body got pissed off at some point. I don't remember if it must have been after he died. My body's like, enough already. Okay. And our bodies will do that. If we undereat, if we restrict, your body will get pissed off. And, if you've ever had that experience and you're not typically anorexic, you'll go back in the other direction. And that's what I did. And I had binges after that because I got too thin, and my body's like, we're fed up and we're going to get fed. So that was another bout of binging for me. And that was super painful. And the last I want to talk about was much more recent. I'd say about 6 years ago, 6 to 7 years ago. And I'd love to say I've been healed for decades. I've been on a healing journey, but it's not all been up. Okay. And I think that's important to share. I got to share my journey. I am not perfect and I'm not cured. Okay. This is a devastating condition, and it can come back, and it can come back with a vengeance. So I would say this last time I'm speaking of happened when I was very unhappy in my marriage. And it's not to blame these things, not to blame my dad's death, or my marriage, not working as the reason for my binging. I mean, I binged because I didn't want to feel. Okay. And that's the bottom line. So I own it. Like, that's what happened. It didn't happen to me. I chose it. I felt overwhelmed by my feelings, and I chose food instead of more constructive tools. But that's what happened. So, I was unhappy in my relationship. I was trying many different things to try to fix that. Constructive things. I was, really developing relationships with girlfriends and doing a lot of activities with girlfriends to try to add that fun to my life, that sense of, connection in my life. But I had a very codependent relationship with my husband, very codependent, very enmeshed. He's a beautiful soul. He's one of the closest people in my life. Still, I love him to pieces, but it wasn't healthy. Our relationship was not healthy. At that time, I had become very enmeshed and codependent, and boundaries were very crazy and hard to negotiate. And the upshot is I went back to food to anesthetize my pain. And that was a really painful, that's my worst binge. Okay. My worst binge happened during that time. Why? Because I've been working for years with emotional eaters. I've been helping him help others with many kinds of addictions for years. I was in healing work as a healer, as somebody doing healing work with other people, and many wonderful things were happening for many people. So for anybody who's listening to this, who is a healer or a health coach or a doctor or a therapist, you know what I'm talking about, to be somebody helping somebody with their problems, and then to be in the hole yourself, it just adds a whole nother level of pain, a sense of being a fraud, a sense of being caught and seen, somebody knowing your secret. It kind of turns the whole thing on its ear. And so that was my experience at that time. It's like, how can this be happening? Look at me. I've helped so many other people, blah, blah, blah. This is before I founded Heal Your Hunger. And it was actually the catalyst for my starting Heal Your Hunger. Heal Your Hunger saved my life. Honestly, it pulled me out of a dark hole. I was really, I wasn't living my truth. Okay. Bottom line is I wasn't living my truth. I was in a relationship I needed to not be in. I was very unhappy. I was very troubled. I felt really stuck and trapped, super trapped. It was awful. And I was like in a burlap sack trying to get out, and I anesthetized the pain with food. And the problem is you make that decision once, and then the food makes all the decisions after that. So I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I think maybe you have. Put it in the chat if you have. I had the experience of, choosing to eat to anesthetize my pain, and then the ride started, and I didn't have choice in it. I had to eat. I was on that ride of, going down that hole of eating, going down that rabbit hole of eating. And boy, oh boy, was that painful. So painful. So it's like when you first eat, that's painful, but then you eat not out of choice anymore. There's no choice in it at all. You have to eat. It's a compulsion. You can't stop yourself. And that was the ride I was on. And I was on that for a while. And then I just, because I was still in that relationship, I hadn't taken action to get out. I would try to pull myself out of it. So like for 30 days, I wouldn't eat, and then I'd binge again. And I was in a terrible cycle of not being able to pull myself out of it. And anyway, bottom line is, at the time, I also wasn't helping emotional eaters. I wasn't doing the work, the healing work with other people, because I thought, how can I don't have anything to give. But that was even worse, because I did have something to give, but I was not seeing that. And I needed to give. I needed to give back. I needed to be helping emotional eaters. I needed to be in my purpose. I needed to accept and align with my purpose, which was to help emotional eaters. And the work I did, before that was for people with all addictions, but I needed to get focused on helping emotional eaters, the Heal Your Hunger mission. So that was my calling. And when I listened to that calling and I started helping emotional eaters, I started my podcast, I wrote my book. That helped me get focused on my mission, get focused on what God wants for me. And after that, I left my marriage as well. It was one step after another of getting aligned with what my truth was. And if you are not living in your truth, okay, if you're not aligned and you feel it in your gut, if there's something you should be doing and you're not doing, and you feel it, you're gonna hurt and possibly hurt yourself with food. So much of the eating that I see people doing is from not being aligned, not following their truth. My clients are people who come to me looking for help. It's not about the food. The food is a result of not living our truth. So that was my worst binge ever, is when I was already in this position of being helpful and healing to other people, but falling back into the food. That was the worst. What does that look like? For me, it was not only late night binges, it was going out to the store to get more food. You know how humiliating that is? If you've done it, please let me know. Put it in the comment section. Yeah, going out to get more food, eating in the middle of the night. Awful feeling. Eating so many awful foods, sugar, carbs, crap, processed, chemicals. I was in such a dark hole. I didn't care. It was like, let's punish ourselves here. Add fuel to the fire, insult to injury. That was my worst binge ever, when I had come so far and then fell back. So if you relate to that, please put it in the comment section. I'm so grateful. That was 6 or 7 years ago. I take it a day at a time. I'm not cured still. I remember that binge that happened over and over. It wasn't one binge. It happened over and over. I remember that. And I never want to go back to that. And that's why I do what I do. I want to help others be free so I can stay free. That's how it works. It's a beautiful thing. The more people I get to share my freedom journey with, which includes some relapses, it's the nature of the beast, the freer I get to be. So thank you so much for listening. Please put your experience in the chat or any comments or any love. I would so appreciate it. I love you so much. Have a great night. And I will see you at the Make Peace with Food event.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.